This video is probably going to be 10 minutes, but we took 30 minutes to debate how we're going to do this video, which I think is exactly
about the topic.
A prime example of why this topic is freaking awesome. I also am going to try to cuss less in the videos because I found out that YouTube and nobody else likes cussing, so I'm going to try to not cuss as much. But that's literally, you had, number one, you have to schedule time for each other. But before we get to that, I'm going with number two, which is that actually doing the thing like this, talking on the thing, sometimes takes like forever
I think
to get into alignment to do it.
Okay, let's start over. Okay? Okay. This is what happens in real life. So we're gonna leave this in here so you guys can actually see what life actually looks like when you're working together. So that was actually the topic. What are the things that people don't tell you about working with your significant other on a business? And you were saying that one of the things is that when you're doing a project together, it doesn't matter whether it's remodeling a house, whether it's doing a business project, whether it's, coming up with the to-dos for the day, anything that it takes, what were you saying? It takes like 10 times as long to figure out how you're going to actually achieve the goal together than it does to actually do it, I think is what you were saying.
Yeah, and like that, I think, again, like coming back to, that's the reason why I wanted to make these YouTube videos and the power couples next door is like, nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about how when it's just you and you want to go do X, you sort of decide and you go do it in your own way. But when it's two people, then
you're actually merging two ways of doing things and two different ideas of how to get to the same goal. And how does that actually work? And how do you make it work?
That is the question.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that nobody tells you about. And that would actually be an excellent topic for a video to do in the future.
Yes, there would be a lot more to that. We have semi-figured it out and still,
Yeah. So another thing that nobody tells you about doing business together, and you came up with this one, is you have to schedule time for each other.
Yeah, owning a business is typically 24/7, and because you're on call all the time if something happens, if you own it. Which you can put things and practices into place so you're not on call 24/7. So it's not the way it has to be, but I do think that you have to figure out how to schedule time for just you and your significant other away from all distractions, and make that a priority as if it was a business meeting. So that's something that nobody really tells you about, is that, hey, it's okay to schedule time for each other. Maybe it doesn't seem romantic to you, but it definitely is necessary and definitely something that you should do.
I think that's one thing I know I've struggled with, and I think we've both struggled with it, is it's like, it almost seems like it takes some of the passion, or I don't know, just some of the passion out of it.
Fantasy of what it is.
Whenever you're like, hey, I want to spend time with you, and I put it on the calendar, like Wednesday at X time, I want a conjugal visit at whatever, or whatever it is, right? Like, because we've built 4, 5, 6 businesses, and we're building a couple of businesses simultaneously together right now, and it's like, stuff comes up.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that same discipline that you would have for everything else, for some reason it becomes sort of easy for your partner to slip through the cracks.
Well, that's an interesting another point. I would say another thing that nobody tells you is
So this will be number
number three, it's really easy for your business to become your number one priority. And ultimately, I think if you make your significant other the number one priority, you will find much more happiness in your relationship, if you actually schedule that time and make time for that.
I think that's a slippery slope, because when you say, well, sometimes your business becomes number one before your partner, I mean, let's be real, it is probably going to be number 4. Sometimes your partner can come first, sometimes your business can come first, sometimes the kids can come first, and you have to actually figure out what that balance is. But in terms of number 3 and how this works, is it becomes a slippery slope, because if your business becomes number 1 before your partner at all times, or a significant period of time, it's not the business and then the partner's number 2. That's not what ends up happening. It's the business, and the business is customers, however many you have, emails, customer service, marketing, telephone calls, business meetings with other business people, all of that. So it's not just like business and then partner and they're number two. What ultimately, it becomes a slippery slope because it can become 50 items and then your partner. And those 50 items are what the business is.
Yeah, so I think this ties into number 3, which is to schedule time, is because that helps you balance out those priorities, because it can be hard to balance work, because work, obviously there's things that you need to do in order to keep your business running, in order to make money, in order to support your family. So it becomes really mixed and emotionally charged when one person is trying to do what they feel like is necessary to support the family, and the other person is feeling like they're not getting any attention or love or acknowledgement. And I think that one of the ways that you can help, eliminate that is by scheduling time together, for sure.
Yeah, so number 4 or 5, I don't even know which one we are.
We can stop counting.
We can stop counting. I alluded to it a second ago, is that, and again, maybe this comes back to scheduling and just how important it is. I always say a schedule or having an idea of what you're gonna do will set you free ultimately, and maybe this is why. But if you don't, crap, I lost my train of thought, which is fine.
Okay.
What was I trying to say?
Tiny disciplines practice every day is what you typically say.
I do say tiny disciplines
But
practice
having a
every day.
schedule.
Having a schedule will set you free. But, basically, your business, man, I was saying it earlier, it was so good. In my mind, it was so good. Your business, I know what it is. Okay. So your business, we're gonna leave all this in there. Your business, sometimes it does have to take precedence over your partner. Sometimes your kids have to take precedence over sometimes your dog is sick and you gotta take it to the vet and your dog takes precedence over other things. But I think what you have to look at is the precedence that you're setting consistently in terms of what your priority is. And you have to look at really having communication and co-creation around what your expectations are of the other person around that time that you're gonna give to them and that they're gonna give to you.
That's a really good point. People don't talk about probably co-creating what expectations are and how you're going to achieve goals. So that's something that's really, really important, especially when, even if the goals are in common, like common goals that you guys are wanting, but expectations as how they're going to actually be reached and how they're going to be, played out.
And that gives me number 5, which we're going to talk about this in a whole video. We'll do a whole video on this. I don't think you and I have actually talked about this in depth before, so that's going to be a great video. But number 5, 6, whatever we're on, is this idea of expectations of your partner. I don't know that there's any other, maybe within a family dynamic, but with your partner, I don't know that there's any other dynamic where we begin to have expectations of the other person. And I heard an amazing, I don't remember who said it or wrote it that I saw, but an expectation of somebody is an unspoken agreement. When you have an unspoken agreement with somebody, that means you made an agreement and they have no idea how they're supposed to fulfill that agreement.
Well, they don't even know about the agreement.
They don't even know about the agreement.
So they can't actually meet that expectation because they don't even know about it.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things I think really, really nobody talks about, is that when you're with each other a lot, and then maybe like us, you're in the business and you're living life together every day, you can end up with all of these unspoken agreements that in your mind you thought were communicated. You have this expectation that this is going to happen. The other person has no clue about it.
I would say one of our biggest breakthroughs in working together, like we built many businesses together, and there was definitely certain like times in businesses where we would just hit heads. Like we would just butt heads, and it was really like rough. Like we still loved each other and everything, but it was really, really rough. And I would say that it wasn't until a couple of years ago, well, we've been together almost 17 years. And it was probably within the last like 5 years that we finally discovered what that was. And it was, we each have different, what we call winning formulas. how we have in the past done things that have gotten us to the goals that we wanted to achieve. And it's usually, mine is I'm extremely detailed. Like I see every little thing, and making sure that everything is perfect I have found evidence that that works for me. Making sure I do every single thing that I can see and think of and beyond. So basically, what was I gonna say? I'll do whatever it takes. That's kind of my winning formula. Do whatever it takes. And within that is looking for everything that could possibly be out of place, every little detail, like really searching into the details. So when we did houses together and flipped houses together, if there was one little spot that was missed on the caulking on the baseboards or paint, or something was just slightly imperfect, I would freak out. And your winning formula is...
Oh, do we know what my winning formula is?
This is work smarter, not harder.
My winning formula is 3-dimensional chess. Like, I think I just have everything in this idea that I'm looking at.
Oh, I remember what it is. I'm going to tell you. His winning formula is a 20% that yields 80% of the results. So, if he can sell a house, and it doesn't matter that there's a little spot that's missed, and he can sell it, then that was he does the 20% that gets 80% of the results.
Okay, I want to be clear. I would have never left something that could harm a person in general. I would never have done that. When we talk about those tiny little details that you see, when you would see...
I would see stuff, let me just be straight. I've walked into builders' houses and I'm like, OMG, like, and it's not things that, like you said, would harm people or whatever. It would be grout and tile, and this tile would be slightly, higher than the other one. And I'm like, no, it needs to be exactly even. And he's like, nobody's gonna notice that. Only you notice that, it's fine. There is no such thing as perfection. That would probably be the clash, because he's actually right. But also I have found that when I actually, implement my winning formula, that I feel like that I get to where I want to go. And so it's not a right or a wrong of which one of us is right or which one of us is wrong, but it's just two ways of doing things. And I don't want it to sound like you were not doing your job properly. It was literally me being like overly perfectionist, and his recognizing what are the things that are actually important, that are going to actually get you to the goal quicker.
Which sometimes are right and sometimes are wrong, and that's the thing. But I think this brings up another one. Like, that sort of feeds into the idea that we know we all have strengths and weaknesses. But what nobody freaking tells you about working with each other is how to communicate back and forth about those strengths and weaknesses, which is actually what would you call it, a bilateral communication? It's a communication that goes both ways, because you can't just communicate to your partner like, I'm strong in this and I need you to like, I need you to bend to this. But the reverse is like, sometimes you freaking suck at shit or things. Crap, I got to take that out now. So sometimes you suck at stuff, but you think that you're good or you want to be good at it. And now it's a delicate dynamic of your partner being like, you're really not good, but like, how do you say that to the other person and not make them feel like junk and things like that?
I feel like, you definitely have to be honest with yourself and with your partner. But I was gonna say that I feel like a lot of people don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are. And that might be a good thing to actually sit down and do with your partner, is actually identifying where your strengths and weaknesses are, and actually maybe doing it for each other, what you think the other person's strengths and weaknesses are, and then having just a very calm conversation, not getting your hackles up if something that they said bother you, but just being aware and having a discussion and identifying what those strengths and weaknesses are and how you guys can come together and actually become a better team versus butting heads. And I think that was the breakthrough that we made, was understanding our winning formulas and our strengths and our weaknesses, and how, instead of butting heads about them, how can we merge together and be better together?
I feel like that if you guys are watching these videos and you haven't sat down as a couple and made goals, that you should make goals before you go and do your strengths and weaknesses. And I almost feel like, I mean, correct me if you disagree, but I almost feel like the reason why they should do that is because a goal that you co-create together, so you guys both decide it's a goal that you want to pursue individually, and it's okay to have your own goals that you pursue individually, but together, you're going to go do it together, whatever this goal is, that's like the touchdown. And what you have to realize is you're on the same freaking team. And when you realize that you're on the same team, now your playbook can be, you know, how you're going to do it. And that's when the strengths and weaknesses can really can become something that can move you forward or set you back. Is designing your plays around how we're going to get to that end zone, how we're going to get to that goal that we've written down, and hey, this is my strength, this is your strength, this is my weakness, this is your weakness. How can we you know, move towards this goal knowing those strengths and weaknesses?
Well, yeah, another thing too is we actually have pretty good balance between strengths and weaknesses. Like he has strengths where I'm weak and I have strengths where he's weak. But what do you do if you guys actually have the same strengths and weaknesses? Or some of them?
Outsource.
Exactly. So you can't have two quarterbacks on the same team necessarily in the game at the same time. You guys can, you know, obviously switch in and out, but you also are going to need someone to actually catch the ball. We're talking about football, but you're going to need someone. So then if you need to find someone to fill that spot, instead of forcing one of you to do something that maybe is not in alignment or is not your strength, then you're going to outsource and find a team member that can actually do that. So that's the other flip side, because I was just thinking for us specifically, our strengths and weaknesses are actually pretty in balance.
You know it's not in balance though?
Yeah, we both like to be chief.
Yeah, we're both type A personalities, and we both have, like, sort of, when it comes to this, we both have very masculine energies around, like, just getting stuff done. And we're sort of aggressive about it, and because we're both aggressive, like, actually, like, right here, I'm just having an epiphany, like, we probably should co-create some sort of an agreement around where we can get either a framework that would help us move through that, or get a coach, because that's what generally happens, right? Like, if you have two captains on the team and they can't agree on what's going to happen, you have the coach, and the coach is like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Yeah. This is what we see. So, because we definitely complement the crap out of each other, but when we don't complement each other is when
we're both very like, stubborn.
You know, we're in a dance, but we're both trying to lead.
Yeah, I like to lead.
I don't like that. Is there anything else? Is there anything that we've missed?
Oh, I'm sure there's lots of things. We can do another video on other things if more stuff comes up for sure. But this is probably good for today.
Yeah, and I think those are the biggest ones that pop into my mind.
Yeah,
for sure. So if you guys are watching this for the first time, or if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe wherever it is. And
if you want to.
If you want to.
If you like us. If you don't like us, don't subscribe.
Yeah, if you don't like us, don't subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, basically below the video, I think below the video, even if it's on mobile or on desktop, you can put your comments in there and we will try and reply, or we'll even do a video if you have a subject or something that you guys are thinking about.
Tell us maybe you are already building businesses with your significant other. What is something that you have learned that you didn't know before working and building a business with your significant other? We'd love to hear, you know, what are your aha moments and what have you discovered as well.
Or if you're having a sticking point and you're like, I wonder what you guys would do in this situation, you can tell us what the sticking point is, and we're not saying it's right, but we'll tell you what we would do if we were in a similar situation, or what we did if we have been in a similar situation in the past, which we probably have.
There's been a lot of situations over the past 17 years, for sure.
Yep, for sure. All right, thank you guys, and we'll see you, or you'll see us in the next video. I'm not sure how that goes.
Cut. Okay, I'm talking. The things that no one tells you about building businesses with your significant other. 1, you guys don't always agree on how things should be done. And 2, you have different winning formulas most likely, and they can clash. And 3, sometimes you just want to hit him over the head with a hammer.
And you think you have nothing to talk about.